Today's guest holds the record as the most capped men's rugby player in history. It's a very warm welcome to Alun Wyn.
I think the whole accessibility piece is the best and most dangerous thing for the Lions. Share as much as you can, but you've got to keep a bit for the badge.
Did you make friendships on Lions tours?
The
James Horwill incident. Did he stamp on your head?
I must have deserved it.
Took your barn off with it, didn't you?
Yeah. Now.
What does the Lions mean to you?
It transcends a life in a way because, you know, my kids are going to be known as the kids of Alun Wyn who played rugby. So it's something I'm hugely proud of.
Into the final moments, Alex Payne trying to keep this side going forward. Haskell takes it on now with just relentless chat, largely about himself. And there's Tindall to add the finishing touch of glamour and World Cup winning stories. That is how you podcast.
Off we go again. Once again. Because we have a man in studio with a staggering 158 international caps. 148 for Wales, 12 for the British and Irish Lions. Today's guest holds the record as the most capped men's rugby player in history. He played 12 consecutive Lions tests, a feat unmatched in the professional era. He hoisted the Tom Richards Trophy in that epic third test win over Australia in 2013, sharing the moment with the injured Sam Warburton. And in 2021, he led the Lions as captain on their most recent tour. The man is, quite simply, rugby royalty.
On this week's show, Alun of Wales relives all 4 Lions tours, the highs, the lows, plus we look ahead to the 2025 series. If you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Hit the button, turn on the notification bell. Gets me every time. Give us a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments.
It's a very warm welcome to Alun Wyn. First things first, how are you?
Very good.
It's nice to have you
You're
with
looking
us.
good, bro.
You look well.
Do you know what? Everyone says that to me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, they really don't want me to look as good as they do at
No,
the
it's
minute.
because you're a big unit.
Not that I think I'm looking good, but
yeah, that's
you
the
know,
Welsh you coming out
yeah,
humble.
yeah, I gotta
Wait,
sit
listen,
it down.
you're in London now.
Yeah.
You can rate yourself. It's all about rating
Oh,
yourself,
my
bro.
God.
Just let everyone know I look fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I am just not about me, but it's about him. I just want to make him comfortable.
That's your subconscious coming
Yeah,
out.
it is.
that
Yeah,
is.
sorry, that's my demons
No, I'm
coming out.
good. I'm good. I'm keeping active. Kids keeping busy.
Yeah.
I took a hard, probably 4 or 5 months away from everything and all those sort of things.
What did you do?
TV.
Did that sort of disappear into the Welsh Hills?
No. There was I ran out of paint inside my cave to keep going. But no, I just wanted to have that release, I suppose. I'm still a little bit distant for one reason or another, but I think slowly getting back to it and learning to live. Like most people who finish the game, it's very different. Very different outside the white lines. And
Have you found that easy? Harder than you thought?
I think depends who I speak to, depends who asks the questions. I'm
Right.
usually give different answers. I think people understand it with being in it. It's not as easy as
But it's not as easy for you because we're living in Wales as well.
Yeah, no, not just that. I think people are very gracious. People ask how things are going, but I think you're a long time inside the white lines, and I say it as it was a quick 20 years, and it was a longer first 12 months than those 20 years. But yeah, through most of that now and just getting on with it.
We always like people to bring in a few bits to help dress the set. And you've brought in a poster from your first cap, which is 11th of June 2006.
Yeah.
1965.
1965. But obviously it
Wasn't in black and white before you said
exactly.
anything.
Argentina against Wales, as it was. And you were someone who sort of went through your career and people paid compliments and lauded you. And I, from an outsider's point of view, you never looked that quite comfortable with it. But when you look at the whole now, how do you reflect on 158 international appearances?
Well, it wasn't my fault. I didn't pick myself before anyone says anything. But I kept going. I think, on reflection, I would have happily had 2 just to make sure the first one wasn't a fluke. A lot of people say 1, but I say 2, and that's 20 years ago next year, which is
a long innings.
It's a lifetime. But I always wanted to play for Wales, and it was probably very fortunate to play for Swansea and my region that got me to Wales. But you got to play for Wales. If you don't play for Wales, you don't get to the Lions. And it's not a stepping stone because the Lions is what it's all about. But I was a proud Welshman representing the Lions because of what I did in that Welsh jersey for a little bit of time.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get into you as the Lion a little bit later on. We're going to look ahead to, this is obviously our big Lions preview, what is to come over the next 6 or 7 weeks or so. Can we start, though, with a quick reflection on the 2 finals at the weekend? Congratulations to Bath. 29 years of hurt and waiting and a long stint between drinks is finally over. Bath 23, Leicester 21. You were there? You were working with Defender?
Yes.
Did you have a good day?
Yeah, it was good. Hell of a day. As an occasion goes for rugby, it was impressive. And the game was your typical final in the first half. One early score, worst time to score.
Yeah.
And then Bath. It'd be interesting to see if some of those passes had stuck, but they did look uptight.
Yeah.
Because it was a final and the occasion, all that sort of stuff. But it was a good advert for rugby, and I haven't been to a Prem final before, so it was good to see that on the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. Over the bridge.
Yeah.
What did you make of it all? Should we start with the celebrations in Bath, first of all?
Yeah,
Open top bus parade, music,
so good.
Beer flowing. As I said, it has been a long time between drinks for a club that has had a lot of success in the past. But actually, I find if you look not just at Bath, but you look at Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup this year, Liverpool winning the Premier League, Bath now Premiership champions again. It just sort of feels like big clubs have reawoken and have had proper celebrations.
Well, we've had 6 different winners in 6 years, which I think is amazing for the game. I think very close. I thought Leicester were going to crawl back in. I think very sad for Dan Cole, not because I think he didn't do anything wrong. I think we had Tins. We did Hampton Court Palace last night. Tins very much on the side of he felt it was his mouth was yellow because of the tucked arm. Look, for me, there's nothing he could have done. I don't think he jumped up, charged down. I know you have to take care of the player. We live in a collision sport world. I thought it was really unfair on Dan. I don't think it was anything at all. And that's unfortunately the nature of the game. And again, what we love about sport is those moments and contentions to talk about. This will be debated until the next final.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Dan, we'll come on to your amazing Lions speech about no tomorrow. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that now, but I don't think it was a reflection on him. I think it was just at the moment. Finn obviously knew what he was doing. It's a dangerous moment. It's a big play. It's a shame that was what was talked about, but I certainly don't think it was a penalty. I don't think it was anything. I think it was just
really?
a moment. I just don't think it was anything. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. You've got a big unit running in the air. He's jumped. He's committed. Close enough to the guy. The guy's kicked. What are you supposed to do? Well, apparently jump and hug him, but the natural reaction is we're going to fall on someone's ribs. But most people who haven't play rugby, to jump into someone with exposed ribs, that's a recipe for disaster. To tuck your arm is what you would naturally do. So yeah, I'm.
I knew you were going to look at me.
Yeah,
I just
go on. Give us a real.
I can see it, but I agree with Hask, and I respectfully to Dan. His footwork probably wouldn't be up there. With his feet on the ground. I don't know how he's supposed to.
Curious time to bring charge down to a game though.
But
after 400,000
but
games.
I don't understand how anybody can change direction in the air.
No.
The 2 things for me, I think the empathy side of things.
Yeah.
That's from a player and.
For Dan Cole.
Well, just generally from players understanding how the rules are changing, but also the interpretation for the refs. And then the second thing is, and I've spoken about this a few times, rugby's a dangerous game that we can make safer, but it'll ultimately never be super safe.
Right.
And I think it's a full contact, body on body game. However safe it is made, it'll still be a dangerous game.
Yes, you can do more to look after the players, but it is a violent contact sport, and that's what happens. And unfortunately, the empathy through slow motion, replays and everything else has gone away. And then unfortunately, you have moments like that where some guy's going to finish his career now with that's his lasting thing.
It highlights how few people get to leave the stage with the trophy held aloft. You think Johnson, McCaw, Courtney last year, obviously he's gone to Brive, but a lot of players don't get the moment that they're looking for. I also think it's really sad as well when you're talking about something that's gone wrong to define a final rather than a Freddie Burns drop goal to win the Leicester type thing. And I've got great sympathy. I just also do have a huge amount of sympathy for Carl Dixon as the referee. It's an impossible job out there. And we've had many referees on. We've had Wayne Barnes on. We've had
but it's not
Craig Maxwell Keys. I know, but he ends up coughing a lot of flack.
Of course he does. Of course,
and you've got to remember that.
Him in particular, and it is sad. But when you talk about these things, you have to talk about not the person, because whenever in sport people go after the person as if it's a personal vendetta or something else like that. Carl Dixon made a decision. I don't think it was the right decision, but he made a decision. That's not my personal attack on him at all.
We also don't know what they've been told to focus on.
Yeah, exactly.
In the games leading up to or for that game in particular.
Yeah.
So
I think the other thing, funnily enough, if you take the emotion of Dan Cole out of it and you stuck Benno Urbano in there, or you put Thomas du Toit into that challenge, I don't think people would have a complaint with it. I think it's because it was the story. It was 10 minutes to go.
But irrelevant from the outside looking in, everybody's going to focus on that because the occasion and, that game for Dan. I think if it was, people close to him aren't going to focus on that.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's the main thing. The rest is just white noise.
But there were some amazing moments. Finn Russell passing to Jomo to score.
What did you make of that?
I mean, fair play. I mean, I just think Finn Russell just literally
he plays his own game.
Finn does what Finn does.
Doesn't care, loves it. I think, do you know what? That just shows kind of the mark of the guy where most people would be selfish. This is my moment to score in a final. I've had this incredible interception. This is the perfect play. But then he just casually gives it. He said, it's
Max Ajomo, son of Bath.
Son of Bath. Put him through. What a narrative. What a story. More romance than the sport. I think it's brilliant, and I just think
God they didn't blow it.
And also when Finn Russell, scoring points for fun, does what he does, share the love, the love. I mean that's the thing. I mean, do you get a few tries? You get a few tries in your career, Phil?
Probably should have had more.
Yeah, I got 4th for England in '77. I would have taken anything. I've been running around, because you chased real hard.
I think I was 8 in 158. So that's not a great strike
rates. I love it. What will Andy Farrell have made of Finn Russell's performance? Do you think?
I think he'd be pleased that, first of all, he came through unscathed. But I think you want to see people playing well in finals. It's obviously going to go up a notch when they go to the, not just the Test series, but building up to the Test series. To be fit, to obviously be playing with confidence. And the danger is when you go into international setup and you go into Lions, you can go into your shell. We heard it all before, but I don't think Finn's the type of character or person that's going to do that, and I think the Lions will be better for it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I thought just the whole spectacle, even Sam Ryder on the electric guitar at the start of it.
You a fan of that?
Yeah, do you know why? I think, first of all, from what I'm led to believe, because we actually saw Bill Sweeney yesterday, he said that Sam Ryder had lost his voice, so he couldn't sing or had an issue. But I quite like that. It's a very American-esque sort of someone playing, with a guitar. Full well that Bill Sweeney's in tray today is going to be laden with complaints and emails.
Angry from Hertfordshire.
Colin from Surrey is going to be very perturbed. I loved it. I mean, obviously Dan Cole trying not to crack up is an amazing one while he's trying to rock out a guitar. It was something different. Rugby needs innovation. I think if you look at other sports, and I always hark back to the American ones, they try all sorts of things. I mean, we tried in the parachutist into the stadium. That didn't go well with Toulouse hanging himself. We're trying. It's not necessarily going.
Roll the dice, kids. Roll the dice.
You said in hospitality, you had singing waiters.
We had singing waiters in the Gallagher
Premiership. Put our service to the test. Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Well, it wasn't great.
Cabaret now, top of your CV.
You talk about things to do after career. I'm actually at the point now. I would be a singing waiter. I'll do anything for cash.
So interestingly, and it was a brilliant day at Allianz Stadium. Sunshine, Gallagher Blue.
But it's sold out. We had last couple of years, well, maybe last year, but the year before, it wasn't full before that. Do you remember there was a bit where it was kind of declining? Yeah. And we came on the show and we're a bit like, this is a Premiership final. This used to be a massive spectacle. What's happened to it?
It's definitely trending upwards. And, they sold out in record time this year, back-to-back sellouts, which is fantastic. Just to throw in the opinions of two people who I'm sure you will sort of bounce off. Will Greenwood was like, great occasion. I'm not quite sure what the spectacle was. And Simon Shaw wrote a very interesting article saying, again, lots of energy, people trying things, but the rugby itself was just, it wasn't tribal in the way that Anfield, when they win the Premier League, is absolutely tribal. Is that a problem?
Most surprised bit is Simon Shaw wrote anything. That's
you can pick that up with him.
I won't.
But do you know what I mean? Is the fun? Is it just a celebration of the game and let's fill it with families and do all the things that Twickenham on International Match Day isn't? Or do we need a bit more fire and brimstone and kind of high stakes?
I think it's a good thing that everybody feels vested in it, that they probably bought tickets. My team's going to get there, so I'm going to go. Yeah. And you get the neutral. I think the game itself, we've alluded to earlier, was probably a bit stale in that first half because it's a final. Yeah. They're always going to be attritional. They're always going to be a bit sketchy. So I understand what they say, but I don't think the game of rugby is in a position where it can exclude anybody or. Yeah. If it's you'd rather a full house and have those questions asked after than have 2 to 10,000 seats empty.
Yeah. Quick word on Leinster as well. Congratulations to Leo Cullen's men. 32-7 winners over the Bulls at Croke Park. Didn't quite manage to fill it out. Rain fell, but Leinster finally have won a trophy after a 5-year drought. sort of feels good that is a monkey off the bat for them.
Yeah, it's in a strange way. There were comparisons with Bath because the investment they've had in their squad, they needed a win. It would be interesting to know whether the Prem was the one they really wanted or the other two. Yeah. And then Leicester in a similar vein, really. They recruited hard, always got a strong squad, and they'll be disappointed. I thought, I saw a few of the interviews about their post-match from their quarters onwards, and they did a good job of keeping the pressure off, because they were are you all under pressure? Are you all under pressure? Because there were questions coming from within Ireland. So I'm pleased for them, because it's always nicer going into another camp, particularly arguably the toughest camp you're going to have, or campaign, with a win. Means you need to recover a lot less.
But if you look at Europe as well, to lose that game, and all the pressure that people, to Northampton, the fact they got over the line, they're ruthless. Jamison Gibson Park ruled out for kickoff. He's been absolutely incredible for Iron, incredible for Leinster, real driving force. You would have thought that would have unsettled him. Absolutely not. I think and win as convincingly as they did. We talked about Leo Cullen on the show at the time, and I said, look, I've got no comment on. I don't know him as a bloke or as a coach, but to get to that close to so many sort of trophies and then fall short, would someone new come in with that existing squad make a change? It's like, I don't know. We suggested it. They've now won a trophy. The pressure's off. They can celebrate. And actually, sometimes winning a trophy cements what you're trying to do. Because if you don't, you can get the environment can be so good. You can be having the best time. You can have the best players, and everything will be great. But nothing cements a win or cements a regime like winning trophies. It reaffirms everything you're doing. It means you can breathe. You can have the off season now, knowing that the last game you played.
Not this year for someone.
Not this year. But for the rest of the team, the coaching staff, they can enjoy that period of time and go and reset and go, right, what lessons did we learn? How do we now kick on and get that European Champions Cup trophy?
We shall see. As you said earlier, the best thing about it from a Lions perspective is that all of them came through unscathed. And that does lead us on to the Lions, which we're going to get stuck into in some depth in just a moment or two. Before that, though, obviously the tour is now fast approaching. And the burning question remains, can the Lions win their first Test series in 12 years? Fear not, Dream Team. We have got you covered.
Join us live at O'Neill's Wardour Street on Tuesday, the 1st of July for an exclusive Lions show featuring the two of us and a very special surprise guest. The evening kicks off at 6:30, followed by an action-packed discussion on all things Lions at 7:30. Tickets are just £5, excluding fees. We're not made of money. And if that wasn't enough, your tickets includes a free pint.
Come along. Don't miss out. Head over to the Eventbrite website and search GBR to secure your spot now. Other than being in Australia itself, O'Neill's delivers the best atmosphere on the high street for watching all of the action this summer, with big screens that take you right to the heart of the game and the perfect pint in hand as well.
O'Neill's is the unbeatable choice for watching the Lions. Head to your nearest O'Neill's or book online to grab the best seat in the house.
So let's move it on to you. Your favourite subject,
topic,
I know.
Yay!
Lions number 761.
Yeah.
One of 16 men since 1989 to have played Test matches in New Zealand, South Africa and Australia. Tell me first of all about the memories of touring Australia over the others. What is it that makes the Lions tour to Australia different from South Africa and New Zealand?
I think Australia, because it's so vast, so many other sports, we could go to some places and people are like, what are you here for? Being on British Isles, particularly in Wales, it's a relatively small place. You go to Australia and it's vast.
Yeah.
And obviously, so many other sports. I don't think rugby's, where was it, third or fourth potentially?
Yeah.
There or thereabouts. Yeah. And a lot more travelling to do because obviously country's bigger. But then it's probably a little bit more welcoming than New Zealand, South Africa. Because of the fact that the game isn't up there as such, you don't get the slitting throats
and
gesture on
Monday morning welcome.
Welcome New Zealand. You're playing rugby, good luck. So, and it's
you're going to need it.
That sort of stuff is fine. It's a little bit different in Australia, but I think they've got a point to prove. Obviously, after the last couple of years, and I think the autumn in particular is going to spark the curiosity there, not only in Australia but over here. I think the Lions are going to. I hope the Lions win the series. They should win the series, but I think the showing from Australia and particularly some of their teams in Super Rugby is going to make the whole campaign and the series what it should be.
Okay. I don't want to labour the point about the longevity of your career, but in 2009, you partnered Simon Shaw, who I think is about 77 now. And then 4 years ago, you were obviously looking after Marcus Smith, who I think was about 16 at the time. When you spread the players that you played with out and you look at the tours you went on, where do you see the change in the Lions over that time, particularly, I suppose, looking at this year's tour as well?
I thought about this, and the obvious one is that the age profile of the first two other players were a lot older. But I was like, oh, that's because I was young, and then I sort of flipped into the last. But I think the biggest thing for me, and it's a bit random to probably say it here, is the whole accessibility now, the whole commercial side of it. I think it's grown. Not, it's obviously everything it is on the pitch. The sense of being part of something that's essentially, the element of immortality. The ferocity of the people you come against, the coming together of the nations. But I think the whole accessibility piece is the best and most dangerous thing for the Lions. Because I remember watching 97, 01, 05 and all the docs and all that for the bits that I didn't see.
Yeah.
And I just hope that, fast forward, however, this tour goes and beyond, that they still maintain that mystique. I think, you need to share as much as you can. But
not share at all.
Well, I think you've got to keep a bit for the badge, and whoever wears it, and I think that's important.
That's very interesting.
And I've thought of it like that because we are in that world now where everyone's doing diaries, all behind the scenes. Lads are creating their own content. I think I'm a fan of telling the story, but you are right. There's some bits I think that probably shouldn't be on camera. Just those little moments.
Well, I'm not saying not share, but I think there's certain things that you. The history on that, you need to ensure that it's got another 120 years, however many years. I think sometimes you can dilute certain things, and I think that's got to be really, really looked at and balanced. But again, the business and commercial side of it has to be serviced as well.
Yeah. A curious question. Why are Lions tours so hard to win?
Well, a lot of people focus on who the Lions are playing against, but the biggest thing I think looking back is getting that I don't want to say camaraderie, because everybody knows each other as players. You don't know them as people, which is hugely different. And the peaks and troughs of success, failure, and selection that come within that. So I think the biggest thing is rather than looking who they're playing against, actually the team piece for the Lions it's the biggest thing to overcome before you even take the field.
How much of a role as captain do you play in trying to build those bridges, bring that camaraderie, manage it so everyone is on the same page very quickly?
Everybody goes on about how do you bring a team together, and I align it with, you've been in team environments, right? We're going to have fun today.
Yeah.
As soon as someone tells you you're going to have fun, it's forced fun.
Yeah.
As soon as someone tells you you have to mingle, you have to do this, or how did you do that? Then someone's like, why are you sliding closer to me on a bench or whatever? Or
what's your favourite colour?
Do you know what I mean?
Bang your tambourine
and it's more natural than, whether it's over a few jars or whether it's a coffee after training. It's the nooks and crannies of interaction rather than, let's do a speed date and get to know each other for the next hour, because it doesn't work when it's forced.
Yeah. But it is harder, I think, now because of the amount of people glued to their phones and bits and pieces. It's actually, I didn't. I think the simplest way when you bond the team is have a night out, because instantly you have a few drinks, people let their guard down, you suddenly have a conversation, you learn more about each other, and also somebody's bound to do something stupid that you then spend the next 2 weeks laughing about with other people. But actually, I think it's the little pieces sitting next to each other on the bus, it's sitting at dinner table. But again, now, if you watch people, even people on dates or whatever, everyone's on their phone. That's the hardest thing about trying to draw people out, because I think, remember in 2017, on the bus having fact of the day, joke of the day, stories, someone's got to come up and say something, fines, all of that means that everyone's engaged, you have to prepare, you have to perform. And it sounds like old school, like organising kids, but without that, everyone just goes, boom, straight onto their phones.
12 Lions test jerseys. Do you have them up somewhere, or are they in a box at the top of the attic?
I need to actually frame a jersey. I've still never framed a jersey.
Really?
No.
What for someone who's been there, done it, got the 12 shirts, what do the Lions mean to you? You talk very passionately about Wales and the Ospreys and Swansea. What does the Lions mean to you?
To be part of something, not just in the Red of Wales, but the Red of Lions is it transcends a life in a way, because my kids are going to be known as the kids of Alun Wyn, who played rugby, and all that sort of stuff. So that gets carried on by family, not just you. And I think until till I had kids, I probably didn't understand that as much.
Yeah.
You do see life through a different lens of all the things you achieved. I know people will say that, in any walk of life, but in something that can be over very quickly and go on for very long, which I've actually seen and experienced in equal measure, strangely enough. It's huge, and to do it with guys you've gone hammer and tong against. They've beaten you, you've beaten them, domestically and internationally, in one of the probably tougher sports or ball sports out there. I think is something I'm hugely proud of.
Which is amazing to hear. 4 tours, only matched by Brian O'Driscoll in the pro era. I'd love to fly through them. We said before we started recording this, you said 16 years ago. I'm not sure what I can remember from 16 years ago, but let's give it a test. So 2009, World Champion Springboks. You were 23?
I think 24 that year.
I think 24 that year. And I think I remember reading in your book, you said you suffered from quite a lot of imposter syndrome stepping into the Lions environment. Do you remember how you handled that?
I think I was very fortunate. There were some older heads there. That's the unknown as well, isn't it? I wasn't necessarily long in the international game. A lot longer than Henry Pollock, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
not much.
No, well, but I think you realise you get your first day stash, and then you look around the room and you realise, there's no non-internationals in that room. But I think it served me well, because I'm a big believer you've got to earn your stripes, whether it's training, playing. I'm probably a little bit of the old school traditional element of rugby where you've got to not be subservient, but you show respect, and then you do what you can to get selected. And I remember Phil Vickery in one of our first sessions in Pennyhill Park, and he's actually got a better Welsh accent than you.
Yeah.
And I was calling lineouts, and he was taking the piss, and it was like one of those, I've it's not been accepted, but that's one stripe on the shoulder sort of thing. And obviously these seasoned pros and internationals from other countries, and once you get that little spark of confidence, then you're not foot in the door, but you've got a direction within the squad. And I was fortunate; I was surrounded by them, and obviously some other Welsh legends as well.
Tell me about the do's and don'ts then of a young player on their first Lions tour.
I don't think don'ts are off the card. I think
give it all.
Everything you give it all. Just do be yourself is a big one. Again, alluded to it earlier, you can potentially think, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Just go with it.
Yeah.
The one thing I wish I did do, and it would have been, it's probably a bit prevalent because the day was keep a diary.
Really?
Yeah. I know it's old school, but all the little things we've said about times on buses and meals and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or just random stuff that happens. Wish I'd done that. Just because you can't get them back, irrelevant of what, docs or sort of stuff comes out. But also there's an element of it too. It's a bit like a training diary as well. What did I do to get, if I want to go on the next one?
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be the two things. Be yourself and keep a log of it.
And as for the rugby itself, specifically that second test, when you look back now at what went on that day, what do you remember?
Yeah, it's probably arguably one of the most physical encounters.
Did it cross the line? Or was that just the game at its very peak at that point?
I think that was the game at the time, particularly in South Africa. And they're not supposed to be easy. And again, we said earlier, it's a full contact sport. And probably should have said in the changes of the between 09 and 21, I think the rules, what was the game then and what the game is in 21 even now is different. Again, from entertainment value and all the things that need to make it more available. But that was the game, and you move on, and it'll change, I'm sure, in the next X amount of years.
Okay. I suppose if you compare the yellow card to Skultberger that day and the yellow card to Dan Cole at the weekend, that does show you how far the sport has come, doesn't it?
But I say this every time I get the opportunity. Hindsight, how many games have you won and lost in hindsight? And things we've done that I wish I hadn't or had done. So
it's going to surprise you. I've got quite a few of them.
Tell me about, there's a line in your book where you describe yourself as insular, particularly sort of, I suppose, stepping into that environment. But tell me about the challenge of that within a Lions context.
Well, I think I think I need it. I don't think I necessarily developed it. I think it's just a characteristic. I think it actually helped me probably to play for as long as I did, because it can be, overbearing sometimes being around a group of people day in, day out. Well, luckily there's only one of him, or 40 of them.
Thank the gods.
But no, I think sometimes you need to find space in the environment, and I was comfortable doing that for a large part of my career. And also it allowed me to focus on what I need to do, which was me. You do get distracted, like in most things you do, but I think that was a strength that or something that potentially people perceived as a weakness, but I saw it as a strength.
Did you make friendships on Lions tours though that have stood the test of time?
For 5 minutes.
He's raising his eyebrows.
No, I'm like,
present company
I bump into guys every now and then at events and stuff, and yeah, it's normal. It's not awkward, but I'm not going to be or huggy and bro it up, because I'm respectful to guys. That was a period of time that we spent, an intense period for, and the focus was winning, and you get to know people, but the main focus was win the test series, and I hope it was for them as well. So I'm not going to pick up the phone and call him on a Sunday night, see what his week's like.
Well, I've been sitting there the whole time waiting for you to call.
We'll keep sitting there. But no, but like I say, it's normal. I think is it Ian McGeechan said about like the glint of eye of like you remember about the what you go through, whether it's training sessions, losses, wins, and you get that with. All right, you might play with guys in club and national teams for longer, but it's very, very similar to that.
2009 definitely breathed life back into the Lions jersey, particularly after 05. But 4 years later, obviously, was just the most colourful, sort of energetic tour. And there was a very strong Welsh presence. That was off the back of 30 points to 3 in Cardiff, wasn't it? And I think you ended up with a lot of Welsh sort of really representing on that tour. You were 27. What do you remember of Australia 2013?
Again, we said earlier about the nation, a little bit not under the radar because we all knew where we were going, but I think, and obviously the rugby fans out there, but it was a bit more welcoming than South Africa. Featured in a few games, obviously got to that third test, ended up being captain and doing, what was it, Snow Angels with Jamie Roberts in the ticker tape on the floor. But the one thing that was the first one I probably realised off the back of something Faz said to me about New South Wales game, and that just gave me a heads up, like this is the chance to put your hand up. And what I realised looking back is like every player will have a fourth test. It'll be the one that where you put your hand up, or where you form a relationship, or you form a partnership, or you have an impact. I think I can remember each one where I probably did that, or not necessarily solidified selection, but knew I was in contention. And I think it'd be good if fans watching the game to watch it as a whole, and then you see somewhere someone shoots up a flag, and go, oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
Or or someone peaks at the right time that actually wasn't a cast on selection or nailed on selection. So that was an appreciation of the sort of the stepping stone and the culmination to find your fourth test to have a chance to get in the series.
There's always someone that comes up on the rails on a Lions tour as well in particular. Tell me, do you remember what you remember of the James Horwill incident? Because that yo-yoed as a massive theme throughout all three tests.
I don't know what it was, but it's the worst thing about that is you've got to sit through the judicial stuff and go in and on a phone call, so you waste about 3 or 4 hours of your life, and a lot of the time, most of us just want to get on with it. Yeah.
But did he stamp on your head?
Oh yeah,
clipped your head.
I must have deserved it.
Took your barnet off with it, didn't you?
Yeah. now.
Don't be afraid.
Has got a number if you want one.
I could have had a 2-for-1.
If I'd known that, we could have done that. We could have done that. I can still put you up actually.
Oh,
sorry.
Have a chat after.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Back to being stamped on by James Horwill.
Yeah, sorry.
But I mean, do you see him now? You cross paths with him?
He came to my testimonial dinner back in 2018.
He did,
so with Shawsey, funny enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the game, isn't it? Like, don't get me wrong, we all get frustrated and shit happens, but it's because we care, and that's what the game is.
Nothing to see here. Move on. What do you remember being named captain and the honour of leading the Lions into that third game?
Was it opportunity cost, isn't it? The next best alternative, which is foregone. So Wilby got injured, Paulie got injured, Dricker wasn't selected, and that was me. So technically it was fourth choice. But I've said this a few times in the fact of everybody thinks Lions captaincy. How do you find out? It was just over breakfast.
Really?
Yeah. It was all right. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wow, the romance.
No, but we didn't have the time. It wasn't a case of let me check or whatever. I was like, I'm happy to do whatever I was selected to do, and it'd been a long, quick tour. They always are. Whether it's a Lions campaign or a Six Nations autumn, summer, they go quick because you're counting down weeks, not days, to the game, and everything had pretty much training wise had been done. We had, I think it was a team run and a half training session to do, so I didn't really have time to overthink it. And
John Terry won the game, turn up, lift the trophy.
Not quite like
more than John, I think.
But
I know what you mean. Of course.
No, but it is. It's like after 9 weeks, and I was one of a number of guys that could have done it. I was just fortunate enough to have it that day.
And there was that epic speech as well. There is a tomorrow. There's one with or without this jersey. Did you scribble things down? Did you think of themes, or it just came from the heart?
I remember we had that meeting, and Faz had said that, and I was like, no. I wasn't being contradictory. I was almost using what he'd said as motivation for me, and I thought I got to share it. That's why it wasn't necessarily overly rugby what I said that day, but I was like, no, if having been involved in 09, came off the bench in the second 2 tests, lost the series, and I still thought about that regularly.
Really?
I was premeditated to a point, but only in the fact that Faz got me thinking about, the occasion, and potentially you're not going to do that again. So
there's always a danger with the Lions that you drift into hyperbole. But I can remember covering for Sky and being in Stadium Australia. I think we were in with Surya McGeechan. It was a very odd week because, as you say, Brian O'Driscoll had been dropped. Jamie had come in, John Fox had moved across, and there was a lot of kind of scratching and itching, and a lot of people who weren't very happy. And I think we were quite flat in our build-up. And I'll never forget Surya McGeechan turning around and spotting that Warren Gatland was wearing a tracksuit and not a suit. And he said he's trying to change something here. And I don't know whether this is all just sort of hindsight, etc. Do you remember that week being difficult, or do you just remember it as like we were fully focused, the noise was totally incidental?
Dare I say it, I think sometimes when you've got like a subplot going on somewhere, as players you can actually crack on and get on with that stuff. But a lot of the work had already been done. And again, playing international sport, you're used to having a lot of, look at Six Nations and some of the grenades that we chucked by coaches just to deflect away from teams. It wasn't necessarily orchestrated like that, but like I say, all the work had been done. The subplots were the subplots, so we had to get on with it. And we weren't going to change anything after 9 weeks.
But did you feel that performance was ready to come out of the team and the squad in training, or was it a Corbusiero sort of flick the switch, try, and suddenly it's like it built off the back of that?
Yeah, I think we started fast. I think they had bobbled the first couple of kickoffs. So as soon as you get the corner of that plaster, you're going to start pulling at it. I think it did help how well we went in the scrum, because that was a constant thread throughout that game. The scrum dominance didn't keep us in the game, but it pushed us through the game. And that's our job as forwards. I just helped that the backs were clicking, and a couple of scores late on, which I think we'd shown in glimpses throughout, but you don't necessarily see that sort of. Because I looked at some of the scores, and a lot of the games I've been involved in that we lost have been 3 or 4 points. So you don't often see a score line of that size.
And what do you remember of the celebrations? 007. Pouring the champagne for everybody.
I think you put 2 cases in there.
Yeah, nice touch.
So it was like,
are you in for that or not?
What was the big highlight? Winning the series or meeting James Bond?
It was.
No, it was good. I think, I don't know whether he or someone else had done something similar in 09, but obviously we didn't go well, that one.
Yeah.
But I think was it Cathy and Bowie ended up in the pool in Passion nightclub in full number 1s.
Lovely.
And a few other bits and bobs.
I'm actually DJ at the Ivy this year in Sydney.
Are you DJ as well? Yeah.
Did you not know that?
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. It's a shock. But I think that'd be interesting as well because if they win, that'd be a great after party as well because the lads love that venue. So that'd be quite cool. I think because they've got wall features as well so you can climb.
It's like shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yeah.
Guest list for that one could be busy.
Oh yeah, you just rule yourself out. Can I get in? I know you have. Not sure you do.
That was obviously it was a very, very special tour. 2013, the last time the Lions have won, but 2017 also has a very special place in history. And you at that point with 31, you were a tourist.
Yeah.
What do you remember of?
We're very different characters, you
reckon?
No one's ever going to write me down as insular. Do you know what I mean? Like that doesn't exist. But I think we all know how that rolls and how you can complement each other and how you need all of that in the dynamic to make a successful team. So I had a mega time, and it was great to watch him work and to watch him play and be involved with him.
Yeah. Do you want to offer anything
in
return? Pay you later. Yeah,
well, when
it takes all sorts.
I came out just the day we played the Premiership final. We met up on the Sunday because Billy obviously had been injured, so couldn't go.
I remember some of the boys over here and some of the boys, he's coming. He's coming. What do you mean? Oh, he's coming. Who's this now? Hask is coming. And it wasn't negative. It was the fact of he's going to come and be Hask.
Yeah.
All encompassing. I think the guys in the entertainments committee were happy because it lightened the load. But
because Roy Best was quoted as saying, "Oh my God, not that fucking guy." You're being polite.
Marmite's coming.
Yeah.
No, it was, and the thing is, for all his bravado, I think, your bravado. Yeah. I think the professionalism, because I remember we were, I think was it the Chiefs game where we were involved, and we were, I think, on the bench for that one, and we were Rota Ruel, was it?
Yeah.
And some of the boys had gone out and weren't involved, and we're like, we're going out, and I didn't know whether we were going to be like, are we going out and still playing, or are we going to just have a few? And truth be, as I'm saying, it's we're going to have 3, and he's like, let's go back. And there's yin to the yang, and again, it's about learning the person. Yeah. And lucky enough to share a jersey with him, but also a few jars. And
but it's interesting. We do the extras after training.
Have to listen to him as well.
Yeah. We do. I think we did some extra tackling bits and stuff together and passing. But I think midweek test team, you had a responsibility to yourself to be the best standards. And I think, I said to you, the very last day, I'm always wary about getting on the piss on a tour because I think you've got responsibility, you've got a job to do. There's plenty of time to get on the smash. And I would rather wait one day afterwards and go until the tour's finished and let your hair down than do it because it's just the risk versus reward is just not worth the time, really,
Yeah. 2017 was obviously partnering Maro as well. What do you remember of a young Maro Tuja? I remember the chant. I mean, Alan of Wales fits with the Seven Nation Army as well. But what do you remember of young Maro?
He was in his prime, I think. The success he'd had with Saracens. He's been touted for leadership for a long, long time. And I think Eddie questioned some of his attributes, but I think ultimately, whoever you are as a player, if you're playing well, then you're a candidate for that. So pleased for him now, obviously, to be leading the tour and to share a jersey with him for a few times in the Red of the Lions was decent. And I was fortunate enough to play alongside Paul O'Connell. Was probably one of the first hybrid back five players. Yeah, that's the thing, because I think the second row roles changed now. It's not tight five; it's a back five position. Obviously, with the physical stuff and the heavyweight stuff you need to do. But I think Ty Byrne is the probably prime version of that now. But I think to see Maro in full flight and play alongside him in that Lions jersey was something that I'm definitely add to the list of things I enjoyed in a Lions jersey.
Do you remember the feeling at the full-time whistle of the third test? And I've got a follow-up question off the back of it.
Okay, what's the follow-up question?
The follow-up question is, if we end up... we very nearly had a drawn series in 2021 as well.
Yeah.
If it is honours even, one test apiece and honours even at 80 minutes this time around, do you stick at a draw, or would you go golden point?
They were talking about that. Have they made a decision?
I think they are thinking about it. I'm not sure they've officially announced it.
It's unlike rugby to take the time to...
But I think, first, to answer the second question, I think the finality of a winner and loser is important.
Yeah.
But we said it earlier about, does that not leave Mystique open for another 12 years. So it depends who makes that decision. I can understand the arguments for both. There's a traditional element to it that, it stays. That's above my pay grade to make that decision.
Yeah.
But then the feeling of the third test, I think I'd had a forearm across the jaw. So I was watching that by 55, 60 minutes. I think the hardest thing with that wasn't necessarily the results, but Haskell is when you're sitting there, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So you've gone as hard and as long as you can, or you've had the shepherd's crook, and then you're just like anyone else in the stadium then.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest bit. And I think the odd thing, because nobody talked about a draw, they talked about winners and losers. They were World Cup champs. So it was that sort of split. What happens now?
Yeah.
Is there extra time? I was like, no.
None of us knew. That literally.
Really?
Yeah.
But no idea. It never been spoken about. Never talked about the laws. Never spoken. Had no concept of what was going on. So honestly, everyone was like looking around, going, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
Like what?
It was almost like the hollowness of not knowing, and then it was like it set in. So it was like, okay, that's it.
Okay, I think that's okay. It's not a draw. I was getting bribed by Rory Best's son in the stand to buy him chips. Yeah. I was babysitting, and his kid was like, I was like, "You're right. So I'm so hungry," and I was like, "Well, is your dad not fed you?" No. And I went, would you want some chips? Yes, please. I went and we go and chips. And then after the game, Rory went, why is he eating chips? I went, because he said he hadn't fed him. He's like, little shit, he's had a 3-course dinner. And I was like, well, I'm obviously not childcare ever again.
I can actually still remember my opening line in the Sky studio. I went really big. I said, for the Lions today, it's either sporting immortality or it's a whole heap of despair.
Yeah.
There is nothing in between. And 80 minutes later, turns out there is something in between.
But that's the thing, there was absolutely no chat about...
No, but what I mean is, you do scenario training and go through it. It was never mentioned.
No.
But there was no even understanding that you could draw a Lion series. No. And it never get... But I just think I know Alun Wyn gave a very nice... sort of on the fence answer. I think 100% you've got to have
you've got to gamble.
Winners
and losers. 100%.
But how? Do you go extra time?
Well, this is golden point. Do you put all your chips in?
Do we want to turn it into a penalty shootout?
No, extra time, golden point.
You can't though, because if the rules, you can't change your mind now.
What do you mean?
Well, you can't go extra time, and then if you're drawing after extra time, we're going to take shots at goal. Do you reckon you should do that for a Lion series?
No.
Yeah, I mean the drama on that.
Actually, yeah. Go on. Yes.
Yeah.
Fine. Lights go down.
No,
I would hate to take that.
It's a tough
but
one.
legends will be made and villains created.
In a weird way, though, and that the draw in 17 it's added another dimension of talk around the series, which is irrelevant what decisions made and how it sums it up. It's actually good to have that talking point and more energy around it.
And then last but not least, 2021, which was such a hard story for so many reasons, predominantly COVID, of course, but for you also, a sort of remarkable journey of Lions captain through to out of the tour, through to back into the tour. When you look at that now, is that, of the four, is that the biggest itch that you wish you could scratch? The whole of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously, we won the championship with Wales in the Six Nations. Lions captain, okay, job to do, get on with it. Ended after 7 minutes against Japan. Flight had been booked back because obviously Tips got injured as well. For me and Tips the next day, had to go to an MRI, lie back in the MRI. There's cherry blossoms on the ceiling. I was like, they're rubbing it in. They must have known.
Wow.
So yeah, that was that. Went back.
And had everyone just drawn a line through you at that point?
Yeah.
Everyone bar yourself?
I'd had something similar in 2017, but didn't have any surgical intervention. And I was like, well, I would have thought something would have happened by then. And the thing that I questioned was when I did it the first time around, it's like you pop something, you get automatic bleeding. So my chest had filled up with blood and whatever in about an hour, 2 hours. But this time I'd gone out backwards a little. I think it was backwards a little bit. And then I still had, a bit of range, probably more so the day after than I did that day. Yeah. Went to see the consultant. He was like, you can rehab this. So I went in with a sling and he said, give me that. And I left with that one.
Really?
Yeah. So and lots of people were like, I couldn't have been a dislocation, must have been a sublux. Well, I can tell you it was.
Yeah.
If you had one, you sort of know what it feels like.
Yeah,
so got in contact then and set off to a plan, but it was still COVID really, even though things were changing. And I went to St Helens again to do my rehab. And the physio went to see, it was like he's seen a ghost. He was like, what are you doing? I've come to rehab. He's like, I'm getting married in 4 days. I was like, you can't treat you in case I get COVID. I'm fine, don't worry about it. So we were masked up, everything. And then I did my rehab there for, I think it was 18-day turnaround. So I was there most days. I was training with a Jack Russell and a dead rat.
What?
Yeah, because somebody let the dog loose, and obviously so it was literally, I'd gone from the top of the rugby Everest, if you like, to back to St Helens.
Real back gritty.
Well,
like, a bit like a Rocky montage, a bit like,
mate,
Mr.
quite.
T in,
Well, a bit less sun.
Okay.
But I alluded to or said about under 12s with Bonomine. In fact, that's where it started, and then that's why I'm rehabbing to go back to a Lions series. So that was, you chuck in a hyperbaric, a lot of cold work, a lot of soft tissue stuff. Again, still all COVID precautionary stuff on all that. And
I love how you're getting that as a caveat, as if someone's going to come out and get you and go,
Mate, well, that's how we live, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We only know what we know now because of that. And then scared another guy like he'd seen a ghost. I had to train with Wales before I could go out. So I was walking down the Vale pitch to get to the road to get to the training pitch, and Andy, the bus driver there, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to train. But you, don't ask, I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
So I had to prove that I could, do what I needed to. And then I went straight to Heathrow and got out there. And I was still having, on the way from the airport in South Africa to that, still having phone calls about insurance and all that sort of stuff. And they said, like, there's a chance you can sit on the bench tomorrow, Stormers. Yes, fine. Let's do it.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
Is that the hardest you've ever worked to get back to something?
To a point. I think most concentrated because we were up against time and all that sort of stuff. And probably more so for the family because we pulled them out of school, because even if I was a contact and they, it was all that knock on stuff.
God, yeah.
So people don't even think about that. But so owe a lot more to the kids than they realise. But again, going back to what we said, in a professional sense, I was selected to do a job, and if there was a chance, I was going to get back out there. So when the chance, I didn't have a selection of games to have my fourth test, but at 20 minutes, so half an hour, 20 minutes against the Stormers, came through that, and then I was in the hat, as I say.
What was it like though? Were you in pain? Was it sore? I've never really asked you about it.
No. I was, how many boys are strapped? It was just pretty much normal strapping. But then I was just doing the extra stuff and all the training out there to keep it strong and rehab and all that sort of stuff.
Anything you think particularly worked more than any of the other modalities?
Because apparently it's a 6-month injury and you came back in 4 weeks.
Yeah, but I don't know whether...
there's something in there.
Well, I've a bit of abuse and a bit of questions about all that sort of stuff. But hyperbaric is a big one, massive one. And because I was doing a lot of cold stuff, I had to, get all that down before I could do anything. But I don't know whether I did have a weakness and I'd just been lucky. So I already stretched what needed to be stretched.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like you roll an ankle, you do it again, it doesn't hurt the second time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the pathology of it was the sort of thing. I'm sure there's medical people that will know more than me, but I just... I was ice bathing 2-3 times a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So,
do you have any problems with it now?
No.
Okay.
Well, it fell off then in the autumn. So,
I'll do it.
Yeah, but
Proper job.
Just a few more scars to collect.
On so many Lions tours, there is always a sort of narrative that rumbles underneath the actual rugby. You think 05 and O'Driscoll, and you think 09, and we mentioned Skultberger and 13, and there was obviously not only you and Horwill, but there was Brian O'Driscoll being dropped. In 2017, there was Gatland being portrayed as a clown, and it got really heated in the media. And then 2021, it was Rassie, and it was the 42-minute video referee debrief, etc. It was not a happy camp, and it wasn't a happy tour for so many different reasons. But when you look back at it now, can you almost sort of ring fence it in all that you achieved, or do you look back at it and just think that was just not a good time for anybody, least of all two sides trying to play a Lions series?
Which one in particular? The 21?
21, yeah.
I think it was a Lions tour, but it wasn't in the sense of a Lions tour because there wasn't much touring going on because we were based in one place, which was a positive because we spent more time together. But obviously, a Lions tour without fans isn't a Lions tour.
No.
You need to see them. They need to be able to scratch, sniff, feel it, and be part of it. And I think that's hugely important. There's nothing else like it in sport, I don't think. So that was difficult. A lot of stuff was more concentrated because of that. But you always get those, and like I say, because there was no, other media entities, no one out there to distract away from all of that. That's the only reason. It was just concentrated because there was less going on.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it overshadowed it. And credit to Razzie. I think the way he messages and communicates and controls the game outside the white lines is actually an entertaining part of the game, as we've spoken about earlier. And I think in one way it's a bit about American sport, and that's the energy and the curiosity that you need outside of the lines.
Yeah. In terms of the result itself, though, did you find it easy to park?
No. I think because we come back from being behind in that first test as well, to get that win. Obviously, a couple of disallowed tries. People always question your decisions as a captain, but there was a theme of the way we want to make those decisions, and I still, I was make the same ones today. But it's hindsight, and credit to them for winning a series. And that's live and learn, isn't it?
Plenty of good in there as well, though. Let's drink to the good times. Let's talk about the upcoming tour in just a moment or two. But first of all, Hass, we've got a little message from NordVPN, who are back and offering Good Bad Rugby listeners an exclusive deal. Yeah, with NordVPN, you can switch your virtual location. So if you're enjoying a holiday abroad, or if you're outside the UK on a business trip, you can still access all your favourite content from back home, such as streaming services and apps, simply by switching your virtual location to back home. With NordVPN, I can secure my connection and browse safely in the knowledge that my privacy and data is protected, and that will be perfect, very useful when in a couple of weeks' time we head to Australia. We're going to be busy. We will be, yeah. I mean, I will be using it to go back and do some work, do some payments, do some business, send music and bits and pieces, unreleased tracks I've got to send online. I don't want anyone nicking them. Very Secret true. Music. So yeah, I'm very excited, and thank you NordVPN for the support. Fantastic. Just a quick reminder that NordVPN can be used on up to 10 devices, the premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee per month. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goodbadrugby. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. If you are travelling, if you're away from home, go and get your savings on now. Thank you, NordVPN. Let's have a quick look at the itinerary for the Lions Tour of 2025 10-match tour, which climaxes obviously with a 3-test series against Australia. Key dates, we'll pick out a few of those. All gets underway this Friday against Argentina in Dublin. Saturday the 28th is the opening game of the tour in Perth. That's against the Western Force. Wednesday, the 2nd July is the first midweek game. That's against the Reds in Brisbane. Saturday, the 5th, keep an eye on selection for the Tars game. Normally see about 2/3 of the test team getting picked for that one. Wednesday, July the 9th, it's the Brumbies. Fair amount of history in that fixture as well. 2013, obviously the Brumbies won. 2001, Lions pipped the Brumbies at the death. That was Austin Healy's famous try and Matt Dawson's conversion. Saturday, July the 12th, the Lions play the Australia-New Zealand combined 15. We might see some All Blacks in that one. That's a week out from the first test. Good quotes from Les Kiss as well, who said, "We'll do our best to get out there and bash them, for sure." Subtlety coming through. We want to make sure we make it an enjoyable experience, but we get out there and make sure we do a job that can soften the Lions up a bit for Australia. I love how he's caveated that. He's come out real big. Let's enjoy it. We're going to absolutely bash them up, but obviously we're having a really good time. Make sure we're give them the best game possible. Yeah. Like, just relax, bro. Just say bash them up and leave it there. Yeah. Go toe-to-toe, I'm sure the Lions will. Then it's the test series, of course. Brisbane, July the 19th. The MCG, the incredible MCG on the 26th. And it is Sydney for Saturday, August the 2nd, with one midweek game against the First Nations and Pacifica 15. That's between the first and second test. It's been a long time, obviously, since a last Lions series win. The Lions are the favourites, but Australia are coming up on the rails. And obviously very, very good to have the Lions fans back as well. 50,000, I think, will be travelling out there. It's going to be an epic, epic series, particularly that game at the MCG, which is 110,000, I think I'm right in saying. Andy Farrell as head coach. Tell us about the man, the myth, the legend that you know, having obviously played under him. Yeah, I think he's a very good orator, but it's genuine as well, authentic. I think it's very easy to say a lot and not actually have the CV to back it up. You're looking at me then? No. Fucking side-eye me. Only because you sit there like a nodding dog. Yeah. No, but, and it's, I think one of the Irish players put it right. I can't remember who put or said it, how I feel it, I suppose. Says the right things at the right time, which is a skill, which is a huge skill, because you can end up
talking a lot for no reason, whether you're a player or a coach. No, you can, you know what I mean.
I was looking. I thought about
I didn't
myself.
look at you that time. I looked at him.
Myself.
Stop getting
I say the wrong
sketchy.
things at the wrong time.
Welcome along.
No, it is, and I think that is a skill, and it's what I've a very short period of time, but in the grand scheme I've experienced, and I think it's going to be a strength for all those players, not just obviously the Lions guys know, the Irish guys will know it, but obviously all the other guys will get up to speed quicker because of that.
Apparently the opening sessions have been hugely impressive. I think the players are absolutely loving it. Andy Farrell, interesting, if you look at the 2023 Rugby World Cup, he was very consistent in his Ireland selection. Would you ink anybody into a test spot at this point, or do you think the quality is such that everybody starts with a fair chance?
I think everyone starts with a fair chance, but I think he would have ideas of who. Every tour I've been on, there's always an idea of who's going to be there to start with. I think players that have probably put themselves forward. I would say you look at Marrow, obviously, Finn Russell. You look at maybe Jamison Gibson Park. I would say would be three guys off the bat. I think you look at Sheehan as a hooker. I think you look at that. I think the rest of it, it's hard. It's 50. I think it is all to play for.
I always think about, you hear about coaches when they've done Alliance tour. How do they pick a squad, or do they pick a match day squad and then pick the squad around it? I'd love to know, is it easier to do that and then fill in the rest, or because they all do it differently? But I think that would be the
Did you ever have an input in selection as captain? No, never.
No.
Did you ever ask for it? You ever want it?
No. No, I just don't.
You wouldn't want to do that, would you? No, it's not one of those things.
I just don't think it's necessarily healthy, and you've got to focus on yourself anyway.
What about the appointment of Johnny Sexton in the coaching lineup? What do you make of the transition from Johnny the player to Johnny the coach? He was actually Johnny player coach for much of his career, wasn't he? But,
you said that, not me.
Yeah.
And ref, but there we are.
Definitely.
We've all been there. We've all been there. We've all been there.
Bit of a pot kettle there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think some of the best coaches, the young coaches that have a foot in or as close to one camp as in the player side, and that it's important to have the conduit between the coaching and the rugby, and I think Johnny will fulfil that, but obviously from a kicking and a tactical point of view, with the 10s he'll have an influence, which is what you need. But also I think as a forward it's nice to have someone who's recently finished that you can ask the questions, so you don't pressure the other 10s, or it's an extra person to talk to. So it's not people are being introverted about it and think it's just 10s, but actually there's a lot of other people that you can connect up in the game, which I think is important, because Wales are doing it this year with Lee Halfpenny. I know he's still playing, but he's going on the summer tour in a I think it's more a kicking capacity, but there's another conduit for the link between players and coaches, which is important.
Yeah, I saw Conor Murray at the Investec Champions Cup final. We're doing some bits pitch side with him, and he said, we were talking about Johnny Sexton's appointment. He said that Johnny had been in during the Six Nations as a sort of coach and was absolutely tearing it apart.
Really?
Said he was putting established Ireland internationals into an absolute spit. Still got it. Still running around.
Really?
Yeah. So it'd be very interesting to see. Take your boots. You never know. Do you think the Sexton Russell? I know there's been a lot made of it in the media. Is that that tittle tattle? Or is
do you know what? Two very different players.
Yeah.
Both the way they played and kind of their mentality. But it's interesting. I think if you go into a coaching role, you have to step back, and if you imagine Johnny Sexton's mentality as a player was ultra professional, ultra keen to learn. He would have put work in to then understand how to look. Just because I would have done it this way, I don't expect you to do it way and have that freedom, but also be able to demand those standards. But there is still a human factor within that, and I think what people are doing is they're looking at the two personalities and I think building a narrative around it when it's not true. I just imagine, the most important thing is that Johnny Sexton goes in and is professional like he would always be and helps the guys go, but he's not there as a coach, you're there to facilitate and bring out the talent of that person and also to allow them to flourish. And I think, he would never, I don't think it would ever be an issue. So I would just imagine it's people clutching at straws trying to create a narrative. I think it'd be very exciting for the squad. I think when you remember, as a player, and we talked about this as Owen Farrell, when he was playing, his standards were up here and he's elite level, but the expectation is sometimes very difficult. Other people don't match up to your standards and it can be quite frustrating, but you've also got to remember that people aren't you and you have to be accepting of what their level and everything else. And I think as he's developed as a player into a leader, Owen was very good at understanding that and was know when to speak and just wouldn't always be, come on lads, this is not great, this is not good enough, would have that emotional understanding. I think Johnny Sexton, from all I'm led to believe, is that he was always like that in training, always maintaining standards, this is what we do. But as a coach, you have to soften because you can't drag people up to the way you want to do things. You can't, and not everyone's going to see your way. And I think he probably would have learned that quite quickly.
Did you ever have a spat with him on the training ground? He liked to spat or two, didn't he?
No, I think maybe we got told to leave earlier or hold my feet, but that's what you want.
Yeah.
I think any friction or any tearing apart, that would be. You'd be, as a pro player, you'd be concerned if someone's quiet and they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
And knowing Johnny, that'll be for the betterment, not only of the performance and winning the Test series, but for the individuals and the coaching staff as well. And I think you can have a lot of positive things out of friction and somebody actually saying, "No, this is what I think you should do." And if it's wrong, it's wrong. But actually, you get more positive side effects from stuff like that than silence.
But also, do you think as well, it's friction at the right time at the business end of the week towards then going to the sort of the start of the week and towards the business end of the week. And I think friction early, friction, laying those foundations, but then building into it. I think that's when the work gets done, it's important. But as you get into the games, get into the tour,
But it's funny as well. Friction can be, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. I want to do this instead. Okay, fine, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Whereas it can get blown out of proportion as well.
Yes, of course.
So it's, it's not as...
And I think it's not, again, because I think normal people in offices and stuff aren't able to be as transparent and speak as directly. You got to remember that professional sports people, it was made a lot of Dan Bigger, when he was bollocking someone else on the field. But I don't think that's a problem because you're all resilient men built to hear those kind of conversations and drop them and have that ability to do that. Whereas people will read and see things and interpret the way they would deal with it because it's not in their normal life. Whereas we are always having that. I mean, I remember Alex King, anyone would give him a bad pass, he'd fucking just volley the ball back. And he's one of the quietest, politest, loveliest men you'll meet, but he had an expectation of standards, and people would have rows in training and you'd walk off the training field and you come up and go, listen, the reason I fucking said that is because of this. You need to hold your feet. You're overrunning it. You're getting in the way. I can't see the other players. It's not personal. You'd see the mark of the man if they'd be like, whoa, you just hear it, take it and move on. Whereas some players can't and they hold grudges, but majority of the top professionals just move on.
Tell me about, so obviously 2 Welshmen in the squad. I know you've spoken very passionately in the past about the identity of Welsh Lions, but how much pride for Jack Morgan and Thomas Williams? Anyone unlucky to miss out?
Well, Toby's come back into a bit of form. I thought, experience side of things, he probably was, I should imagine he was in conversation. I could be completely wrong. Blair Murray, because I think, is it because of the situation that he's standing up? But actually, you look the way he's played in those 2 or 3 last games for Wales, and he's shown it for the Scarlets. I think he's, when he gets it right, he's actually unplayable, and he's, discrediting his stature. He's still good in the air, beating defenders. So I definitely thought those 2 would have been in there. It is a sort of benchmark for where Welsh rugby is. I think it's the lowest representation since inception. But pleased for Jack and Tom to be flying the flag. Jack's been Mr. Consistent domestically and internationally, and Tom, Prem Player of the Season. I think it shows how well Jack is playing when your domestic team is going all right, but you're struggling with your international team. Shows how well he is playing amongst the mire, if you like, to get selected and rightly so. And Tom hopefully can carry on in a similar vein. And I'm just excited to see what they come back after the tour and what they've learned and the people they've been around, the experience, because going on tours, grows you. You learn off people. You know a little bit more about them when you come up against them and stuff. So I'm excited to see what they learn, but hopefully they can get a test spot on the way.
How many times have you seen people put in environments with better players and then reach a whole new level? And that's the point. Jack Morgan, no negative thoughts of Wales, but they haven't been playing well, and he has always shone, always been consistent, always been head and shoulders above most of the other players on the field. You bang him into a Lions setup where everyone is as professional as you, everything's fast, everything's more competitive. Going forward, you've got the platform. I think it then propels, and also you'll suddenly see a whole new side because
it's funny though. When you play international rugby, you'll have guys that have come in. You might have people who are debutants, or you might playing against the university team just for numbers, whatever. In a Lions setup, if you go 15 on 15, whether it's unopposed or shoulder on, you've got another 2 test matches on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Yeah.
It's like that's with a midweek game and test games. So actually, everything doesn't just everything is balls to the wall. It's international level, even the low level skills, the contact is all international level. So you've got that for 9 weeks.
Yeah. How much is selection on a Lions tour? How much can you influence it in training, and how much is it what you do on match day?
I think. I mean, look, you've been on more. I'd say because you can give a longer answer. I think for me, it's the games.
Only what you do on match
because
day.
Also, I think you can play yourself out by kicking stones, not dealing with selection, getting it wrong off the field, not performing in training. But actually, those weeks are precious, and you do not want to be fucking kamikaze kids in training and take someone out, because that's a surefire way of alienate yourself. I'd say the games in the week.
But they'll already have done the intel, because they'll have gone to the training bases for the nations, so they'll know how sort of people hold themselves. But yeah. It is about playing, because you don't know who's going to A, get injured, or B, someone's going to again send the flare up, and actually, he's got to go in. But those when you go 15 on 15, and selection's a factor, and opportunity is there, then it
got to take it.
It is like adding another test match.
But also imagine those. I played those 4 midweek games over there. You're having to be asked to double up in training to be a stunt cock to help them. I'm dressed as Core in a tackle suit with a scrum cap, getting filled in. Like Hask, you need to compete more on the ball, to help them clear out. And you already saw from a game like basically unable to run, you have to back it up. So it is hard. But after, when the tour kicks off, your sort of ability to cut, to tear up is slightly diminished by the fact you've played 80 minutes a day before and having to turn back up and train.
You mentioned about now the Lions circus is bigger than it ever has been. I just wonder how desperate some of these players have had.
I don't call it a circus.
But you know what I mean? Like the demands of it and the asks and the interest in it. And what I mean by that is there are corporate appearances every day, I imagine. There's social media content. It's not just train, have a beer, repeat, reload. I just wonder, therefore, how desperate these guys, particularly ones who've been in there for 2 weeks or so, are going to be to put some boots on and properly go to work on Friday night. What you expect from them in the game against Argentina?
They're going to be raring to go, I think. But the thing is, it's not from the end of the season. It's not from the final. Whether they admit it or not, some guys will wanted to do this for their whole career. And now it's, we're on the doorstep of it. I think it'll be. Hopefully it's eye-opening for the guys that haven't done it before, as it should be. But it'll be. I enjoyed that first one, even though it was 7 minutes against Japan. The ability to play one and see the fans that might not be travelling, and the opportunity, because it only comes around every 4 years. So I think they're going to be chomping at the bit, like I say, because the whole time thing, particularly people who are in different seasons and relative success, the input, they'll be raring to go.
Will it come together quickly? I'm thinking back to the game against Argentina in 2005, which is obviously a very, very long time ago, which was pretty clunky. And then Japan 4 years ago absolutely got the job done. But how hard is it to hit the ground? How important is it?
I think the biggest one to face is they've got so many people coming in late, but you want them competing. Again, I should imagine they're going to keep it relatively simple.
Don't show your hand.
How many teams play the same thing, but they just call it different names. So it's more the adjustment to each other rather than, the calls and that sort of stuff. But it depends on Argentina as well.
But also they're ranked higher than Australia.
I know.
So, which is interesting. And they're a dangerous side. I mean, when I came to the squad, right, the moves and stuff were hard. The hardest thing I struggled was having to learn those 4 songs and then I have to sing them. Like that's what kept me awake at night.
Can you remember them?
No, I couldn't remember them then. One of them was in Welsh. One of them was in Welsh. Fields of Athenry, Jerusalem, and Callan. But it was terrifying. And I can't sing. Like, I've got a supreme confidence in 99% of things, but I am horribly self-conscious. Really?
You hide it well,
Let me surprise you. I rate myself, right? But honestly, I couldn't, having to stand up and sing, and it's like, that was awful. That was so hard. And I was like, surely we're professional. We just got to go and focus on the game. So like, no. Learn the words. Learn the words.
The mad thing is, isn't it? You can play in front of like 80,000 people, a TV audience of however million, but you can't sing in a team with your teammates.
No, can't do it.
Bizarre,
can't do it.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest part about it.
Pick us a few names that you are going to be watching particularly closely. Who do you think has got a big tour?
I think I want to see how Pollock develops, whether you can get in that test side.
What do you make of him? It'd be fair to say he's at the opposite end of the scale to you.
Yeah, credit to him. But I think the point, I probably wouldn't be the way I've done it. But, he set his stall at now. He's in an alliance to 20. And I want to see how that story develops and whether he can get in. And it's, I think he had a bit of a tough day in the office in the final for whatever reason. But, the way he's going about it and creating some diverse opinion is fine. But I think that's when you put pressure on yourself, and your performance has got to marry that or match that. Yeah. And he seems intelligent enough to realise that. So looking forward to that. Then the other people, I want to see how Mara goes with the captaincy position.
He looks very comfortable with it, doesn't he?
Yeah. Two Welsh boys, obviously, in Thomas and Jack. Yeah. And we've spoken about him earlier, probably Finn. I want to see him give him the keys and see if he can be...
He's your test 10, Russell.
Well, not my test. I just want a test 10 at the minute. I think there's a few games to go. Who survives? I get asked all the time about selecting a test team. It's I've got a little bit more knowledge than setting myself up for a fall like that, to be honest with you.
Once or twice before.
But I just want to see if he can translate how he's played, what he can do in that jersey, which is, if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere.
I think Mitchell, Finn Smith, interested to see how they go as a partnership. Young kids. Obviously, again, I think Finn Russell at the moment is in pole position. Finn Smith, meteoric rise with England, looks very comfortable. Mitchell as well. Just be good to see how those guys go, how they play. I think again, the back row for me is always going to see who's going to fight for that 7 jersey. Because
so much competition.
That's what I mean.
Like, you could do a podcast just on who you pick. Will they go in a pre-planned, or will they pick 4 particular back row they're up against? It's like I've said it before. Like, Ireland have got their own Swiss Army knife now. They've just made it even worse by having so many other options. Yeah.
Would you go 5-2 bench 4-3? Do you think the Lions can find an advantage up front, or do you think they're going to? Is the pace of the Australian backline mean you need fresh legs?
I as a forward, I'd always lean it towards the forward.
But
you've got a couple of back rows that can do a job.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Well, Ben Earl was playing 12, didn't he, in the Six Nations?
It is fascinating. Yeah. It's going to be a hell of a few weeks. Do you think the Lions have got everything they need to win a series for the first time in 12?
I'd like to think so. It's not going to be as easy as I said, people thought probably 2 years ago. And it was always going to change, and it was always going to get more difficult. I don't know who's going to be selected from the overseas guys for Australia. I think that adds a new dimension, and whether or not there are a few guys that have been in the international wilderness come in certain positions. So it could have a different complexion. But I'm not being biased. Lions have more than enough. Okay. But hopefully it's as entertaining as competitive as it should be.
2-1 Lions.
Sticking with it.
That'd be the fun. Yeah, I just think it's good for the game.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Lots more to come. It's going to be an unbelievable story to tell, and very much looking forward to all things Australia against the Lions. Just before we finish, a few bits and bobs and T's and C's. As you can imagine, we would ramble on and on if it weren't for our team calling time on us every week. But that's all about to change, thanks to our partners at Watches of Bath. Whether you're looking to purchase, part exchange, or sell your timepiece, Watches of Bath has got you covered, Has.
And it's with thanks to Watches of Bath every month we'll be putting one lucky grassroots player to the test, all in the name of winning a cash prize of up to £5,000, helping to take their club to the next level, or have the social of the decade.
The contestant and their glamorous assistants will need to identify up to 6 mystery rugby players based only on the clubs they've represented in their career. So if you think you have what it takes, please head to the link in the episode description to fill in the entry form with your club's name and details for your chance to win.
All entries have to be UK based, and it has to be money used for the club, not personal use.
Do get involved in that if that is your thing. Now, I reckon we've handed out probably 100 bottles of Black Eye on the show over the last 4 or 5 years. For the first time ever, someone's brought us a little present as well.
We're having an alcohol exchange. Do you want to just tell us about this?
It is.
Tell us about this.
I think this is better than a jersey
swap. So I'm very excited about this.
Really?
I know, because I wanted it for ages. I wanted it for ages. I didn't want to have to message you and go, "Can I try some?"
Colour.
Well, look at it. Well, when I was finishing, I wanted to, as we do, you need to decide what you want to do. For some reason, I decided I wanted to do a rum. It's probably easier with things you could do, but it's linked to my career in more than a strange way. I obviously got my first cap in Patagonia. The Mimosa was the name of the first ship that took the Welsh settlers to Patagonia in 1865.
See what you've done there.
So, but the thing is, I could have got my cap anywhere else in the world. It just happened to be, in a Welsh-speaking part of South America.
Yeah, amazing.
It was so long ago, I forgot to say earlier as well, the team was actually put up on an OHP.
Oh, really?
Do you remember?
The front door.
Remember the filament going in from... Yeah.
Wow.
I remember somebody thought...
That's only one up from CFAX.
I remember, I don't know if it was Ian McGeechan or someone, we did an OH overhead presentation, and a fly was on the projector, but he thought it was on the wall, and he was slapping the wall, and it was like, Keach, it's on the thing. So even then, technology letting you down, it's great to watch him.
But so we've been going 2.5 years now. The even stranger thing. So we launched in 2022, which was 158 years after they set sail. And I finished on 158 test caps. Oh. So it was one of those things. I'm like,
comes together and
meant to be. I must have a degree in marketing. I don't know.
Incredible.
But so we've done that, and we're in Tesco's Wales. We're going into another superstore.
It's available online as well to order for listeners
on our website, Amazon.
What's it about? Talk about the taste profile. What we experienced in here?
So we are a 29% ABV rum.
Lovely.
So it's easy drinking, relatively sweet. Unlike me. Particularly if you're too much of it, again, like me.
How do you drink it?
I like it on ice. We've got like our classic serves have been old fashioned or an espresso rum teeny.
Old fashioned is my favourite.
And then I'm an affogato fan, so if you espresso over some ice cream,
you hide that well,
and a drop of rum.
That would not be the first thing I'd go to. Man of many surprises.
And cultures, right? Affogato. Don't worry about that.
So actually, we spoke about it earlier. Foxy's recently been up to Everest Base Camp.
Yes,
and he took a bottle up for us.
Did he?
Yeah.
Boy.
But there's even more links to that. Did you know Everest was named after a Welshman?
No.
Welsh get everywhere, don't they?
Yeah, in the same year that this ship set sail for Patagonia.
God,
we'll swap this. This is obviously a bottle of Black Eye.
You signed it for me as well.
Yeah, we have.
I haven't signed this.
Doubles its value. Do sign it.
I do sign it.
That. 2 straws, please.
2 straws, away we go.
I love this. Thank you so much.
I like that.
Yeah, grab yourself a bottle.
Yeah.
And
we've got one for Tins as well. Can we just explain that story, please?
Because I brought this for Tins, especially for him, because last time I saw him, I didn't think he'd want a full one.
So there's a little miniature for Tins. That's very kind. We'll have the proper stuff. Help yourself to a bottle of Black Eye as well.
Thank you very much.
By return from us. Everyone by now knows that £1.50 of every bottle of Black Eye goes into the Black Eye Rugby Fund, trying to raise £1 million a year for injured rugby players, male and female. And we're available all over the place as per usual. Have a little look on Waitrose, Master of Malt, Amazon.
And we'll raise a toast, actually. When's your 40th?
Soon.
September. Is it
September,
really?
Is it right?
Are you comfortable
we'll
with
have
that?
a toast?
Stepping over the threshold into the middle lane to middle age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
can all relax after 40.
It starts at 40.
You've finally grown into your appearance as well.
You're going backwards.
Well, they say more face to wash every day.
Yeah, it's very true.
Brilliant. We will look forward to enjoying Mimosa. Available Tesco Wales, Amazon, online.
Website,
Grab yourself a couple of bottles, ladies and gents. Couple of other little bits and bobs, drumroll please, because the good, the bad and the rugby are going back on tour later this year with the Lock-In Live. The dates are October the 29th in Warwick, the 30th in Birmingham, 31st in Cardiff, and in November on the 2nd we're in Oxford, the 3rd we're in Reading, and the 5th we are in Guildford. We'd love to see you out and about for a bit of a Lions debrief, pre-Christmas jamboree. Tickets are available at myticket.co.uk. The link is in the episode description. Hask, we've also done another book.
We've got another book. We're doing another book. Yes, we're unlocking the vault once again with a brand new book called GBR Unlocked. And this time it's personal. This is going to be a little bit different. We're taking a deep dive behind the scenes of our journeys. It's not just about rugby. There will be plenty of that. It's about mates, mishaps, and the sliding doors moments that shaped us.
We'll be letting you in on the matches, the moments, the games, and the players that have never been shared before. We're talking the personal, the vulnerable, and the downright absurd, of which there was always plenty, from almost 60 years of collective rugby experience, things we've never really talked about before. Looking forward to it.
Don't worry, there'll be plenty of humour, but we also feature some of the more serious and moving bits, plus stories from friends of the show.
More details to follow, but for now it's out on 6th of November, so please do pre-order Amazon, Waterstones. Remember, if Amazon discounts the book between now and publication, you still get the cheaper price as well. And while you're there, buy yourself a bottle of Mimosa and a bottle of Black Eye as well. And anything else that you're selling at the moment?
Yeah, I've got 7 books you can purchase as well.
So
Yeah, I've downloaded my music. Please do. I need
and
help.
Music, and that's it.
Where's the colouring pages?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Dot the dot.
We can put that in there.
Yeah, a couple of jokes.
If we do
Christmas
a dot to
crackers.
dot draws, Alun. Imagine that.
Yeah. Perfect.
Naked holding a
That
shot
is
of
it
rum.
for this week's show. What's in the diary for you for the next week? You're off to Oz, aren't you?
Yeah.
We can see you down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, for a
You're
couple of
touring
weeks.
with Collection, a smorgasbord of commercial opportunities.
We're going to have time for a drink while we're there?
Yeah. I think there's Black Eye out there.
Yeah.
Well,
we've
I'll
got
tell you
Black
what,
Eye
if not,
drinks,
we're bringing it
actually.
all out there.
We can share a container.
Yeah, I think we should. Let's do it.
Ship it out there. Thank you so much for dialing in.
No
It's
worries.
been a brilliant experience for us to relive the highs and lows of the Last Lions tour, and hopefully there is
We just did.
big
we
story.
just did 20 years in
20 years in
2
an hour and a
hours.
half.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it for us for this week. There is so much to come. We are very, very excited now. The Lions are off and running. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us for all the latest rugby updates. Thank you, as always, to our very good friends and our very loyal sponsors, Continental Tires, the official tyre partner to England Rugby. Remember, if you're looking for an award-winning tyre that can keep up with your every move, look no further than Continental Tires. We're a folding pocket production. Stats and facts provided by Russ Petty. Thank you to you. And this episode was produced by Tom Edwards. Have a brilliant rest of your week. Enjoy the Lions Argentina on Friday evening. We'll be back next week for a debrief. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Good, Yay, The Bad, and The Rugby, Oof, with Alex Payne, James Haskell, and Mike Tindall. Thanks for listening.